This episode of the CMO Suite is brought to you by Uconnect. Uconnect provides digital solutions and teams to brand CMOs, VPs, and marketers looking for true transparency in the biddable media space. From paid social and PPC to complex platforms like The Trade Desk, brands from across the world have connected to Uconnect. Visit them today at uconnect.com. And No Kid Hungry. We're proud to promote No Kid Hungry and their many initiatives to help kids in need of meals. No Kid Hungry helps kids be kids, not be hungry. Visit them at nokidhungry.org. And finally, we're proud that Season 3 of the CMO Suite is presented by the CMOcouncil.org as their official marketers podcast. The Chief Marketing Officer Council is the only global network of executives specifically dedicated to high-level knowledge exchange, thought leadership, and personal relationship building among senior corporate marketing leaders and brand decision makers. The CMO Council's 15,000 plus members control more than $550 billion in aggregated annual marketing expenditures and run complex distributed marketing and sales operations worldwide. For more information on membership, visit thecmocouncil.org. Let's start the show.
You're in the CMO Suite, the podcast for marketers who want to be in the know, presented by Connectivity Holdings.
Hello, you are listening to the CMO Suite. This is Sean Halter. The CMO Suite is presented by Connectivity Holdings. We are wrapping up Season 3. We're back in New York City, where we started the season off. We are at iHeartRadio. We always want to thank them for hosting us here. And today I'm super excited. Not only is Stacey Horton back to help co-host with me. Hello, Stacey.
Hello, Sean. Thanks for having me back.
I'm always happy to have you here. You bring so much lightness and sunshine and happiness to the space. But I'm also excited because one of our last guests of the season is somebody that I've known. I just told him, I think we've known each other for almost a decade. It's Andy Lipset. So Andy has been a pioneer in the radio and content industry for years. He was recently Vice President East Coast for Pandora, where he worked for most of the last decade before taking on the job as CEO at SpokenLayer. Andy, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
How was that intro? Did I do okay?
I can't believe it's been 10 years. I mean, well, I'm only 17.
It's crazy. My club age, is in the 40s at this point. I must be 43 or 44 or something. But you had been working for Pandora. I had started up an advertising agency, and I had come to visit you guys there. We were probably running something out of New York for one of our clients, I think. And I think that's where we at least maybe initially met, or maybe you were a regional somewhere at that point. You were there for quite a while. I won't spend too much time on Pandora, but was that really kind of your first foray into the audio industry, or had you worked at a few places before that?
My entire career has been around audio.
That's what I thought. Where'd you grow up, by the way?
I grew up here in the New York area on Long Island. And the idea originally, Sean, was to be on air. And then I got this voice. And
There's nothing wrong with it, my friend.
And I realized quickly that I wasn't going to be the guy who was doing, it's 70 degrees in Midtown. That wasn't happening.
Did you ever used to practice it's 72 degrees in Midtown?
I can hit the post and I can talk up a song better than anybody. If we have a song queued up in there, go and I will hit it.
We are both we are both so historical. I almost said old, but I don't want to say that. We're both of an age
seasoned.
Seasoned. Thank you, Stacey. Where I remember having a tape recorder, and I would literally try to, talk into the break to see if I could time it, just right. And coming up now, it's Paul McCartney and Wings, and then you jump right into it.
I'll give you a little secret. I still kind of do it every now and then.
That's
if I'm
awesome.
on my way over to work in
Hopefully
the morning.
No tape recorder, though.
No tape recorder.
Yes.
But I just want to make sure that I still have those talents to hit the post
really?
right when the song is about to play.
That is so funny.
But the whole idea was originally that. I've always been consumed by audio and always loved the medium.
Did your family grow up in it, or what did your parents do?
No, my father's an accountant. My mother was a teacher. Had nothing to do with the audio business. Something just connected at a very, very young age with me.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Have two brothers. Have nothing to do with the audio business either, other than they speak.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, this was all just me. And so what I quickly realized was I had this love for audio and this love at the time for radio, but there wasn't going to be an on-air gig, in my future. So what was the thing that I really loved to do was I understood quickly about marketing, and I understood a lot about sales. So what a great thing to do to put those two worlds together, the same way that you probably thought about it as well back in the day.
Yeah, I think I also had this fascination with TV and commercials for whatever reason. Again, I think I was that strange kid that would watch a commercial and try to figure out they're trying to get me to buy this thing, and these are the things that they're doing. to try to do that, the jingles and all those kinds of things. I was always fascinated with that. I don't know, I was a strange kid. So, so you grew up in Long Island. You've got two brothers. Are they both older, one younger?
They have me to look up to.
They got you to look up to.
Yeah.
So you...
the mature one.
You're the mature one of the group.
Yeah.
So you figure out audio is just a passion for yours. And so what was kind of the first job in the industry for you?
The first job actually was at a buying service in New York.
A media buying service?
A media buying service in New York. It was kind of my goal was always to get into radio sales, but at the time, it was really hard. This is a long, long time ago, Sean. It was really hard to just get in without any sales experience or media experience. I was coming out of college. I went to school in Washington, D.C., and you couldn't just walk into a radio station and say, hey, I'm here, hire me. Really difficult at the time. So somebody gave me some good advice. I had a mentor who was in the radio sales business at the time who said to me, get experience in media, work in the media buying side, understand how that business works, understand what makes a good seller, what makes a bad seller. I don't want to curse. I want to make sure this is brand safe. What makes a bad seller. And at the end of the day, you'll get a really good understanding and learning there. And that's exactly what I did.
What was funny for me was I had similar advice, but it was almost the converse of that. So I went to college, then I took a couple years off to travel for Nickelodeon, and then I went back and a guy came to speak at our class. I was a little older, everybody else was in their 20s, and he basically said, how many of you want to go work at an advertising agency? And everybody raised their hand. And then he said, how many of you want to go work in radio? And nobody raised their hand. And his point was similar, which was if you come and work in radio, you will really learn how this industry works. And that will give you, again, some different perspective on how to do this. And I want to make sure as we get in deeper to this, I want to make sure that we're able to spend some time, on this show. We interview CMOs, we interview VPs, global marketing. We like to interview CEOs, especially if they've come up, through marketing and sales, because in some ways that's the advice that marketers are sometimes looking for. Take this job because that may allow you the opportunity to move into whatever you feel like is your next step or your next position. Which is funny to kind of sometimes see that come all the way back full circle from when you kind of really started in the industry to some extent as well. So how long did you stay at the media buying service?
I was there about 2-3 years. I actually interned for them when I was in college.
In the city?
In the city. It was over on 6th Avenue and 42nd Street. This is unbelievable. I'm in the city.
Madison Avenue practically.
I'm working on the Macy's account, and I am big dogging it.
Yeah.
And I am thinking I have made it, and I'm making $14,000 a year.
Did you have that kind of John Travolta walk down the street?
Oh, yeah, I had the paint cans in my hand.
There you go.
I am just this is it. I had a strut.
If you don't get that John Travolta reference, by the way, then this is not the show for you. You're too early in your marketing career.
Or the fact that I was making $14,000 a year.
Yes,
so
that's right.
You can time that out.
Either one of those
what era
two.
this was,
yeah. Right? But it was exciting.
It was great. It was
Even
really,
when you
really
think
exciting.
about it, you're smiling, which again is just an indication that you do still remember that somewhat fondly. It was a great way to kind of get in.
It was a lot of fun. I learned a ton. I worked with great people, some of which I still, am in contact today. One of my first bosses I had dinner with in the city a couple of months back. She was in town. It's just those connections and those things that take you back. And a lot of the lessons that you learn then stay with you very much, down the road.
No matter how much everything changes, there's still a human element to it. And, wherever you set yourself, that's sometimes the opportunity to be able to kind of set your path. Mm-hmm. So then you jumped from there, and where did you head to next?
So stayed there a few years, and the idea was always get into the radio sales side of the business, and had contemplated going onto the local radio side of the business. But what really intrigued me was selling a whole bunch of radio stations.
I can tell you, local was a beast, man. I sold local for 15 years,
and
it was hard.
And it's hard. But for me, selling on the national side of the business and being a national rep where you had, at the time, 200, 250 radio stations that you were responsible selling. And in one market, you're selling sports. And in another market, you're selling top 40 and rock and so on and all different types of rock. To me, that was really exciting. I could really sink my teeth into that.
So you did national sales for a while for what company?
Interrep.
For Interrep, yeah.
So I sold for Interrep for roughly 9-10 years.
So you were there for a while.
I was there for a while. I grew through the ranks, managed the New York office. I set up the training program for the company. It didn't have a training program at the time. We recruited a lot of young talent, and because a lot of that was based upon me trying to get into the business and having a really tough time doing that. And so what I wanted to do is make sure that young people had an opportunity to get in and get trained. It wasn't necessarily like, okay, you're in, go figure it out. We put them through a 14-week curriculum, and I mean a really tough curriculum on how to learn the radio business, how to sell the business as well.
I do think the training aspect is something we seem to often either forget, or it gets pushed aside, or we just can't seem to find the time for it. It doesn't matter again what size the company is that you work for as a marketer, or the size of the brand. When you're starting to build out a team, that training aspect, it's hard sometimes, especially if you're bootstrapped for people. Sometimes it's hard to be able to work your way through that, but it's such an integral, important part. Sometimes we all forget it. We don't do it nearly enough. I'm just as guilty as everybody else is sometimes, and just not making sure that everybody, within our teams and structures is always trained the way that they could be or should be.
So important. And when you think about it, it's kind of like, whenever you walk into any type of establishment, people didn't just pick this up. Whether you walk into a restaurant, hotel, whatever, they didn't just pick it up, right? The fact is that they were probably trained. They probably had the right attitude, but you had to train them for this.
Yeah. So then why did you leave?
I loved what I was doing. This is now 1999, 2000, and there was this thing called the internet happening. And to me, what I saw starting to happen in the business was that my feeling was that consumption patterns for audio were going to change down the road. And it wasn't going to happen overnight in the year 2000, but you could start seeing signals of what could happen down the road. And so I went to AOL, and I started with AOL in particular, working in their music division to help advertisers understand at the time what AOL was doing around music and around their radio product.
Talk about a brand that was so dominant for so long. Crazy that it's not really around to some extent anymore, because it was such a pioneer.
Huge pioneer, a lot of foresight, great people working there. Again, you talk about the personal connections. There's a whole bunch of the AOL team that still gets together around Advertising Week in September.
Fun.
That's organized. About 200 of them get together. We all stay in touch. Really, really solid group of people, a lot of which, I've worked with, continue to work with today. One's doing a project for me right now.
Certainly a precursor to the start of, to your point, the start of what was happening. They were right on the edge of it.
Exactly.
So how long did you end up staying there?
So I was there roughly a year and a half. And the reason why I left there was what I started to think about a few years earlier in terms of the consumption of music, and particularly the consumption of radio, was starting to change. And I could see it at AOL. And I got together with a friend of mine who I worked with in the radio business, Eric Ronning, and he was working at Yahoo at the time, and he was in a very similar position than I was. We had lunch, I'll never forget, at the Bryant Park Grill in Midtown. And, we're having lunch, and I said to him, I got to tell you, this AOL radio thing is like taken off. I can see what's happening in terms of audience. I can see what's happening in terms of listener satisfaction. And he looks at me and he goes, dude, I was just about to tell you the same thing about our Yahoo product. There's a product called Launchcast. And I said, the only problem is that nobody understands on the sales team how to sell this thing. The teams were really driven at the time by banner ads and display, and they didn't know audio. And so we looked at each other. We were probably on glass number 2 of wine or something else. And we said, there's probably a business here. Why couldn't we start a rep firm? It was the business that we both grew up in, but bring a rep firm to the online radio properties. And at the time, there was no Pandora, there was no Spotify. It was AOL Radio. It was Yahoo's Launchcast, and MSN had a product. So we were working for 2 of those companies already. And so we said, what if we were to kind of, take a big step, leave our day jobs and start this? And that's exactly what we did. And ironically, or not so ironically, we signed AOL, and Yahoo is our first client to represent their inventory. MSN heard what we were doing with them. They're like, well, we want on. And then soon after, one of our clients from AOL went to go work for Clear Channel, Evan Harrison. And he said, well, you did such a great job for us at AOL. We want you to do it for Clear Channel. So at the time, we were doing all of the streaming inventory for Clear Channel as well. So we had it all wrapped up. This is 2003, 2004. And we started to take it to radio advertisers. And we built a very, very big business. It was really the precursor to anybody selling any type of streaming radio. I remember being in this very building and talking to some of the sales teams here, and they were looking at us like we were speaking Swedish.
I feel like we ran into that a couple of years ago with the programmatic space. We built up a digital company in the programmatic space because we couldn't find what we needed, which was just transparency in the space. Now everybody sells their form of it. OTT is next, what everybody's selling their form of that. That's the new shiny penny. But you're right, as salespeople, sometimes you're looking at this thing that's on the edge and you're kind of like, I don't know what that is, but I know I can sell him on some 10-second traffics. So I'm probably just going to focus on that. So did you own that company for a while? Did you guys end up selling it, or what did you end up doing with it?
No, we owned the company for a better part of 6-7 years.
Entrepreneurship, really, your first time?
Totally, and real entrepreneurship, right? It was Eric and myself. We were selling. I was buying stamps. It was the whole 9 yards. I mean, we really put it out on the line. We built a staff up, eventually it was, okay, we can't just do this by ourselves. We needed to scale the business, and we started signing other clients like CBS Radio. We represented all their inventory, other big groups as well. And, it grew, and it grew beautifully. And eventually we, sold the business. We were acquired by a company called TargetSpot, and TargetSpot was at the time, a technology company that had ad insertion, and particularly what interested us about that business was they had an ad insertion technology that could geo-target. We were
very early on,
and we were selling stuff nationally. So for us, that was like, it was beautiful.
I did always feel like there was always going to be a space for audio, even in the world that felt like, to your point, display was coming on and video was the hot thing. There's still a power behind audio. And now with podcasting, this being a perfect example, now maybe even more so than ever. In some ways, I feel like it's almost a renaissance of audio.
It's definitely, I've heard it, the golden age of audio. I've heard the renaissance of audio. You really think about it, right? Audio radio started so long ago. And to me, it's just like,
100 years ago.
The grapes were just, being planted. And now, we're uncorking the bottle, and, we're kind of smelling the aroma. Like we haven't even poured the first glass yet.
I almost view it like a book in some ways, which is just what used to be available to us was this tiny little ledge of books. And you could either take that, or you could have to work really hard to get some other book from somewhere else, but it wasn't easy. Now you can have such a niche passion for something. This show is a perfect example of it. I remember I came to you guys probably 2 years ago when you were at Pandora, literally 2 years ago, 50 episodes ago. And I sat with you. You may not even remember this. And I just said, I may end up starting a podcast and in the space. And I think you guys were like, well, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, I don't know. It's just something that I'm going to try to do. And so tell me how you feel like your experience is with just that, with audio. And now that you've left Pandora and you're at this new company, tell us a little bit more about just that.
So, what I saw at Pandora was obviously this huge scale, this huge passion for audio. When you think about where, audio is today and what's happening today within the space, there was still a part of me that wanted to build again. And what I had built at Pandora had already been built and done. And for me, that next step in my career was to build another audio business. The company that I'm working for today and that I'm helping to build is a company called SpokenLayer. And to me,
how did you find them, or did they find you?
I have actually, I've known Will Mayo, the founder of the business, for the better part of 7 years. And
did you say he was a tech guy? Did you maybe previously tell me that?
He's an engineer by heart. He's an engineer and a musician by heart. And Will is the consummate, you take the entrepreneur out of central casting, this is that guy. He's ADD. He's unbelievable presenter. He is passionate about, this business. He understands and is a pioneer in this business, but he's an engineer. He's not really an operator.
So as you met him, as you were kind of consulting for him, was it a situation where you kind of said, look, I think there's life to the product, but this is how you're going to need, were you just kind of seeding him a little bit along the way with like, these are the things that you really need to be able to do to make this work?
He had the product vision, and the vision for the product was really his own personal story. His father was actually in the advertising business, traveled a lot. And one of the answers for him in terms of him traveling was he would actually record bedtime stories for Will on tape.
Okay.
And then send it and either mail them or leave them so that Will would listen to them. The other thing about Will is he's dyslexic, and how he learned most was through audio. And so for his own personal need, right, he created this product because he had to. And he, created this and said, well, gee, and again, this is 2012, 2013, before this kind of
swoop
whole
had come on, yeah.
audio thing happening. He said, I think there's this need to create more audio content, particularly from stuff that's in the written word. And, wouldn't it be great if I could bring this to the masses? And a lot of people looked at him in 2012 and 13 and said, you're crazy. Like, why would anybody need this? And who's going to listen to this?
Was it the books on tape kind of concept, or was it any kind of form of audio where
it was mostly short form, and that's really where the company is niched today. It's anything, particularly from media companies that write, whether that's in the newspaper business, it could be in the publishing business, in the magazine business, in the publishing business, and need to take their content and, drive it into audio. That's what this company does.
I felt like it was interesting to potentially have you on, Andy, again, because of the fact that, if you're listening to the show, clearly you're a marketer. If you're listening to the show, typically you're listening to it through audio, even though we shoot it on video and we take those pieces and kind of cut them up and post them up. The majority of our downloads are all audio focused. We've found that typically we need to keep these at about a half an hour because that's about the travel time that most people are used to. Sometimes that leaves people kind of wanting more, which is not always necessarily a bad thing. But to me, again, it's this area of audio that if you're listening to this, that there's either a need for it or a passion for it, an opportunity for it. As a marketer, sometimes it's hard to figure out how does your brand make the most of that opportunity. It's easy to say we need to shoot a bunch of TV commercials. It's easy to say, well, we need to make a radio commercial. Many are trying to figure out how to utilize podcasting, certainly to some extent, as an extension form of some of that. But with the company that you're at now, talk to us a little bit more about how brands are using that kind of platform to integrate content elements that either can be measured or that they can justify the expenditure into the space.
So, what the company really does at first and foremost is we're a content creation company, right? So we're creating all of this content for these publishers because even though these are articles that are written and you could just say, well, just read the article and voice it, what's written for the eyes doesn't necessarily translate for the ears. So we actually have a team of on staff that is an editorial that rewrites. And so we editorialize that, and then we voice the creative. And we voice it in the sonic identity of that brand. We voice for The Economist. The Economist is going to have a British voice with classical music intro versus when we voice for Cosmo.
Could I ask if you might be able to use me just a bit for that? No?
No.
That was a really bad one.
Yeah.
That was a hard no, wasn't it?
That was a hard no because that was
the worst.
That was
the Jimmy Kimmel version of a British
That was
accent?
a guy from Florida trying to be.
Okay, fair enough, dude.
Yeah.
Are there any needs for voices of kind of 50-year-old-ish entrepreneur men anywhere there? I'm just, I might have some time this summer. I don't know. It's fine. You don't need to answer that. I don't need another hard no.
Well, remember how I told you that
That's right.
the whole
Yes.
voicing thing wasn't for me?
Okay, that's fair.
I'm projecting out a little bit.
No offense taken.
But what magazine would Sean Halter? What his brand?
There's Mad Magazine. I don't know. Some
Cracked.
Cracked.
Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So they're all utilizing the format to some extent, and are brands able to do the same thing? Is it mostly on the publisher side, or are you also just starting to see some of the bigger brands figuring out ways to utilize that similar kind of content?
So there's two ways that brands can get involved. So we create all this content, we distribute it through the Amazons, the Googles, the Spotifys of the world for people to listen to. And there's two ways that brands can be involved. One, there's a sponsorship opportunity. It's voice read. It's stitched into the content. So it's, hey, today's Friday, December, today's edition of The Economist is brought to you by, with, a 10-second, line, and then right into the content. It's one way to do that. And brands love it because what we're putting together is audio, it's spoken word, and it's short form. And these are the three things that, it's a perfect storm for this company. These are the three really big hot buttons with consumers, and they're really big hot buttons with clients and advertisers.
Get me the content, get it to me quick so I can consume it, and then I'm going to go and move on to everything else.
Everything we're doing is 1 to 7 minutes in length. Done, move on. And while people are spending 4 hours with audio every day, when they're listening to spoken word, they were very, very disciplined about what it is they're going to, spend time with. If it's a 35-minute podcast, it better be compelling and engaging. I know on the other side that, when people are thinking about short form, it's like, I can give that 3 minutes. I got that. I can do that, whether it's on my commute, whether it's on a jog or whatever.
If we're at 28 minutes, do you think they're still listening through now? Have we made this compelling enough, do you think?
It is so compelling. Again, the fact that you're the voice of Crack magazine. This is your audition.
Officially, this is my audition for it. What's next for you guys? Are there publishers you still feel like you...
Oh, we're just getting started. On the publishing side of the business and the advertising side of the business, we just created a new ad product where we're creating all this content for publishers. Why can't we create branded short-form audio for advertisers? We rolled that out a couple of months ago. We have a bunch of advertisers starting to do that now.
What are they doing with it? Rolling it out on their social? Rolling it across...
rolling it out on social to promote it, rolling it out on their own web platforms to promote it. Some are using traditional media to drive it back because it's really good stuff, updated every day, and it's professional. So they love that. So on the brand side of the business, that's what we're doing. You'll start to see us do a lot in terms of testing of creative. We want to make sure that what we're doing is, from the editorial side is top notch that way. You're going to see us do a lot of things in the space that are just going to really continue to pioneer the space in the way it should be.
Do you love it?
I love it. I drink it, I eat it up. It's the best.
Well, you have a passion for it. I guess, again, as we wrap this, that half an hour went fast, didn't it?
Oh, my God.
It flew.
I mean, can we do, part two? It's like another air shift. I'll do overnights for you.
You never know, for crying out. Listen, I tried to keep this to 7 minutes, so it would fit within
it's not short form.
A SpokenLayer segment. Right. I think one of the things that I take away from this, Andy, is, again, for any of us that have been doing anything in any of these spaces for 10 years or 15 years, when you wake up and you're just like, I don't want to go back in tomorrow. It's either going so fast that it's driving me crazy, or my clients don't understand, or whatever it is. You can always take what you've learned and find a space.
Shake it up.
Shake it up.
Shake it up. That's what I say all the time. You got to think differently.
I think there's a song, Taylor Swift song about that. I'm not sure. Let's shake it off. Never mind.
Okay. Taylor Swift and the Cars.
Oh, that's true.
Thank you.
Cars.
Thank you. See, I can hit the post.
Oh, man. You did. You hit the post. Well, listen, Andy Lipset, CEO.
I can't believe it.
At SpokenLayer.
Yeah. I'm the adult supervision.
You're the adult in the room. That's for damn sure here. Well, listen, I appreciate you, again, for many reasons. I appreciate you actually always being kind to me, even when you were over at the competition of Pandora, always spending some time with me, always inspiring me. The whole team over there was always really cool and was always willing to sit down with whatever it was that harebrained idea I came up with next. And some way, somehow, I've managed to actually pull this podcast off. I'm almost 50. I'm almost 50 episodes in. That's not too bad, and pretty good guests.
I was about to say, it's 50 episodes, but quality guests.
Not bad.
I mean, this is probably the downfall, but after that, I mean, seriously, Burger King, there's pretty big brands that have been in through this studio. We appreciate
it. So, listen, thank you guys all for joining us this year. As I said, we are starting to wrap up season 3. Stay tuned for season 4, which will be coming early next year. And if you missed any episodes this season, please go back and listen. We are on, all of the big platforms that are out there. And you never know, we may end up on SpokenLayer at some point as well. Thank you again for joining us on the show, Andy, and take us out.
Thanks for hanging out in the CMO Suite, the podcast for marketers who want to be in the know, presented by Connectivity Holdings.
You're a C-level manager. You shouldn't have to know the difference between behavioral or contextual targeting, but your agency should. Uconnect provides brands and biddable teams direct access to platforms like The Trade Desk, Google, Amazon, Facebook, OTT, and more. Their US-based traders can train your in-house team or provide complete transparency with no minimums and CPM-based service pricing for true transparency. Something Mighty Hive, The Trade Desk, and Centro simply don't offer. Tired of being the smartest one in the room? Reach out to Uconnect today for a free demo. Uconnect, the world's leader in true transparent biddable media.